All right, welcome back. JT here. I'm back in the record room, and today I'm going to start a series, Records in My Collection. This will be Records in My Collection #1, and next Thursday I'll do my new vinyl buys Thursday, as I was doing every Thursday, but this will be fun to alternate. So with Records in My Collection, today I'm going to feature American bands. I have about 16, 17 records that at random I just plucked right out of my crates in the back that way in the living room, and this is going to be fun. If you see a lot of American bands that you think should be in here, there's just so many. But I just again picked about 16, and let me go ahead and get started. Coming in really hot, that would be Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers from 1976, their debut, and TP and Mike Campbell, Stan Lynch, awesome. And what I always think about this when, American Girl is on this record. And Roger McGuinn heard that and he thought, did I write that? Is that a song I forgot about? And he, brought to attention that, yeah, Tom Petty sounds an awful lot like me and the Byrds. And I don't even think Tom Petty, he was just doing his thing growing up in Gainesville, Florida. Of course, he loved the Byrds. But when Roger McGuinn said that and met Tom, I really think that Tom realized, like, wow, I really do sound a lot like the Byrds and McGuinn. It's just too cool. So Tom Petty, his debut album, let me show you the back cover. And this is on Shelter Records. And speaking of, yes, the Byrds, Turn, Turn, Turn. This is a really nice copy. This is a Columbia House fan club pressing, and this just sounds great. I got this at Originals Vinyl in San Francisco, up in the Fillmore on Fillmore Street, on the corner of Hayes and Fillmore. If you're ever there in the city, please drop by. It's a vintage record store. And, here you have Gene Clark. Too bad we didn't get one more album out of the Byrds with Gene Clark. So, love having this record, and I've amassed a pretty good Byrds collection since I've been in the vinyl community. So there's the Byrds, and a band from New York that was, they were regulars at CBGB's, and that would be, yes, the Talking Heads. Jerry Harrison, David Byrne, Tina, fantastic band. And this is Speaking in Tongues. I have other Talking Heads records on vinyl and everything on CD, but I love this one. And Burning Down the House, but fantastic band, great American band. Back cover. And this is on Sire, guys. Right on. Next up, yes, the Violet Femmes. Great, great American band, absolutely. Let me show you the vinyl on this. This is on Slash, and I love my bands on Slash. You have Blister in the Sun, Kiss Off, Please Don't Go, Add It Up, So Killer, Gone Daddy Gone. Wonderful album, Violet Femmes. This is about a second press. Glad to have that in my collection. And guys, I had to represent great American band. Yeah, got to represent with the punk rock. And that would be a band from Los Angeles, California. Actually, they're from the Valley originally. And that would be Greg Graffin and Bad Religion. Fantastic. How could hell be any worse, right? This is such a wonderful album, and I had to show a little punk rock, because we do it very, very well, as our friends from over the pond as well, with all those great punk rock bands. So Bad Religion, How Could Hell Be Any Worse? Super duper fantastic, and this is on Epitaph, the great label. Next up, guys, now this, Elliott Smith, Either Or. This is an OG. I bought this in 2001 at Tower Records. Let me show you the sticker, what I paid for it. Yeah, Either or. Wonderful. Love Elliott Smith, great American artist. This is so minty clean. You know, I've spun this about a total of, I'd say 3 or 4 times. Very careful with it. I have the CD. I listen to a lot of my Elliott Smith that way. This record is getting pretty pricey. So really cool that I scored that one at Tower. And another one that I bought back in '01, and it's just so minty clean. That would be Stone Temple Pilots Purple. This is a first pressing. And yes, it was there. I believe it was about 12 bucks, probably $11.99 at Tower. My friend Ted Dugan was the manager of the Tower Record Reno store. And sadly, it closed doors in about 2004. I still buy stuff online from Tower occasionally. And here's that original press. You know, in STP, they're more or less out of San Diego, California. And another great American band, that would be, yes, guys, that would be the Pretenders. Chrissie Hynde and the Boys. What a wonderful album, huh? Fantastic. Here's the songs. And the back cover. And this should be on Sire as well. Oh, yes. Here's that sleeve. Wonderful record. The Pretenders. And now a band from Wisconsin. Love these guys. And this is on Slash as well. And I love me some Bodines. And I really, really like this record a lot. And there is a track on here called Pick Up the Pieces. And it sounds like it's a Lindsey Buckingham Nicks composition. They've got the Mac vocals soaring, man, on Pick Up the Pieces. If you don't know that track, please listen to it and you're going to see what I mean. Pick Up the Pieces. There's Kurt and Sam from Bodines. Love this band. What a great live band as well. Heartland rock, roots rock, popular. Now, I just picked this one up very recently. Great American artist, that would be Tom Waits. And this is Foreign Affairs. You don't see that one, this one that often, actually. This is a wonderful record. I just picked this up not long ago, and I spun the A-side and the B-side. Fantastic. And there's the, here, let me show you. And, you know, him and Ricky Lee Jones down in Venice, California were quite the item back in the day, like 1977 and so. But, yeah, the great Tom Waits. Foreign Affairs on Asylum. And now, talk about American band. We have Steely Dan with the Royal Scam. And Kid Charlemagne alone with the phenomenal Larry Carlton guitar solo. And if you don't know what I'm speaking of, listen to Kid Charlemagne again, and note for note, listen to that Carlton solo. It's for me, it's one of my top 10 all-time guitar solos, and I am a guitar guy, so fantastic. You have the Royal Scam on here. You've got Green Earrings. Don't Take Me Alive on here. All right, Royal Scam, Steely Dan. And you can't get any more American as this, and that would be the Blasters. Phil and Dave Alvin, fantastic. This is nonfiction. You know, these guys are rockabilly, they're rock, they're roots, they're just American, you know, rock and roll. Absolutely. Love, love, love the Blasters. You know, Kern County, California, these boys. All right, Blasters. Now here's another Tower Records purchase from the year 2001. and that would be Elephant by White Stripes. And yes, this is an original pressing of Elephant. I know. And let me show you the what I paid for it. I really enjoyed that Tower Record Store. I'm not going to break this out. This is near mint minus on this record. Gorgeous to have. Of course, I have these on CD. That's the White Stripes, rather. And I enjoy listening to White Stripes on my digitally on my CDs as well. But I've busted this out. I've played this maybe 4 or 5 times. So White Stripes. Here's just about a perfectly written album, and that would be Boston, guys. I saw this as, I'm going to show this record. Absolutely. What a fantastically, wonderfully written record. It must have just been painful to write this record. I mean, so much care and so much perfection into the writing of this record. Now, 3 more, and can't get any more American as the great Janis Joplin. And why am I showing the greatest hits? Because they're all there. Almost all of them are here on this album. And, Janis, what was so cool about her, she was not necessarily a hippie chick. When she started making money, she started going to the designer stores and dressing to the nines, man. Her shoes, the pantsuits, that was 1969. She was wearing all the fashions, and as she should have, with that wonderful, fantastic, killer, powerful, bluesy voice that she did have. What a iconic American artist, Janis Joplin. There she is. What a cool chick. Originally from Texas. And I'm not showing Cheap Thrills because I'm going to show Cheap Thrills on my next new vinyl buys Thursday. I just got it in the mail. And I can't do this video without showing this one. This is a bootleg, guys. This is from New Year's Eve, 1973, the closing of Winterland with Bill Graham, and that would be the Grateful Dead on this fantastic bootleg, Farewell to Winterland. This thing is worth some money. It's not in the best of shape. The vinyl plays, just fantastic. Quiet, hardly any pops and clicks. And here's the back cover. Such a great boot to have. I've had this for a really long time, since about 1981 or 82 I scored this. And I got to show you the vinyl on here. And this is the Slipped Disc Records boot of this great album. Let me show you the songs. Okay, and some more songs. All right, the Grateful Dead. And last one, guys, doesn't get any more American as this, and that would be James Marshall Hendrix. And that would be Jimmy at Winterland in 1968. And I picked this up really recently. This show, if you've heard it or if you haven't heard it, you got to listen to the show, because this really represents the way he was live. This is a very, very good live show at Winterland, and his Like a Rolling Stone is phenomenal. Just an outstanding show. And he never really played anything quite the same way twice, definitely, and you're going to hear that on this record. So Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, so this has been fun. Every other Thursday, I'm going to do records in my collection. So take care, and I'll see you next Thursday with my new Vinyl Buys Thursday. Thanks.